When we got to the scene, we saw a car being towed away with extensive damage to one side. Police say the car was somehow involved in the
Last month, when someone opened fire at a softball game in Mechanicsville, it was Terence who ran in and helped save the life of one of the wounded, a 6-year-old girl. We were there a few days later when community leaders gathered nearby, Terence among them.
Their lights are flashing, their tape is up, and there are lots of people, as you can see out here right now. Police giving us few details so far. Here's what we can tell you. At least 2 people are shot.
He had known tragedy, held it in his arms, staggering from personal tragedy that shattered his heart.
I saw hurt.
In the summer of 2022, a devastating double tragedy struck an Atlanta family. Terence Denson, a 36-year-old father from the Mechanicsville neighborhood, lost his life on September 8th, only weeks after his 15-year-old son, Terence Denson Jr. Loved ones remember Jr. as a bright Midtown High School student with a kind spirit. One friend even described him as an angel on earth. His father, Terence Sr., was known affectionately as Favors or T-Rock and had become a passionate community advocate in Mechanicsville. On the night of June 21st, 2022, Terence Denson Jr. was visiting a friend at an apartment complex in College Park, just south of Atlanta. Shortly after midnight, discharges erupted at the Gardenwood Apartments. Police responding to the 1900 block of Gardenwood Court found the 15-year-old in the driver's seat of a car, unresponsive and suffering from multiple discharge wounds. Sadly, Jr. was pronounced gone at the scene. The news stunned his family as they were in shock that the teen had been ended so suddenly. Neighbors in the area were also horrified that someone so young had fallen victim to violence.
I've been speaking with the aunt of the teen who was killed all day. She did not want to go on camera, but she did identify him as 15-year-old Terence Denson.
His family shared this photo of him with us. They told me he just celebrated his 15th birthday and was an honor student at Midtown High School. His aunt also told me he was going to start a summer program at Morehouse College in a few weeks. Family members told me Denson was visiting a friend at the complex. I spoke with neighbors who say they heard gunshots around 11 p.m. When we got to the scene, we saw a car being towed away with extensive damage to one side. Police say the car was somehow involved in the
Investigators soon began piecing together what happened that night. According to Clayton County Police, an argument had broken out involving Jr., a 19-year-old man named Ahmad Ryle, and Ryle's ex-girlfriend at the apartment complex. At some point during that altercation, Ahmad allegedly opened fire and wounded the 15-year-old multiple times. What exactly led up to the deadly confrontation remains unclear. It was also shared that Terence Jr. did not live in that apartment complex. The assailant fled the scene immediately, leaving the gravely wounded teenager behind. On June 24, 2022, just 3 days after the incident, police publicly named 19-year-old Ahmad Ryle as a person of interest and warned that he was armed and dangerous. Ryle was believed to be a member or affiliate of a local street gang known as the Lincoln Bloods. In fact, investigators had encountered him during the post-incident investigation when Ryle was charged with battery and family violence related to the altercation with his ex-girlfriend prior to the incident. Law enforcement issued a warrant for his arrest on charges of malice fatality, which is Georgia's term for intentional premeditated fatality, and possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. However, for several weeks, Ahmad remained at large, prompting police to ask the public for help in tracking him down. The break in the case finally came in mid-July. Clayton County Police located and captured Ahmad Ryle, bringing an end to the manhunt. The next day, officials announced that the fugitive suspect was in custody and would face justice. He was formally charged with Terence Denson Jr.'s fatality and denied bond. Police did not immediately disclose details of his arrest or how they found him, but the news came as a relief to the grieving family. The 15-year-old victim's loved ones now had some measure of hope that accountability was on the horizon. Terence Jr.'s mother and relatives described him as an outgoing, respectful young man with a bright future. He had earned good grades at Midtown High and had dreams ahead of him, all cut short by a senseless act of violence. With a suspect in custody, prosecutors prepared to pursue a fatality case. In the aftermath of his son's passing, Terence Favors Denson Sr. was devastated. Nevertheless, he channeled his grief into action. The 36-year-old father had already overcome hardships in his own life. Family members noted that he had been incarcerated in the past, but after returning home about 2 years earlier, he committed himself to positive change. He became determined to steer young people away from the path of violence. Losing his teenage son in June 2022 only strengthened the father's resolve to stop the bloodshed in his community. That summer, he got to work as a neighborhood peace advocate. Terence Sr. partnered with local anti-violence organizations, including Chris 180 and Cure Violence, to promote conflict resolution in Mechanicsville. He even began laying the groundwork for his own nonprofit group, which he hoped to call the Better Youth Living Corporation, or BYLC. The nonprofit's mission would be to equip and educate local youth with tools and guidance so they wouldn't turn to firearms to solve problems. Terence Sr. organized community cleanups, school supply drives, and healing circles to help neighbors cope with trauma. He spoke openly about the need for intervention to save Atlanta's next generation from violence, often invoking the memory of his son as inspiration. Terence Sr.'s commitment was not just in words. On August 7, 2022, he became a hero during another tragic incident. That day, a pickup basketball game at Rosa L. Birney Park in the Mechanicsville area was shattered by a shootout between rival groups. Dozens of discharges were fired in the park, leaving 4 people wounded, including a 6-year-old girl named Serenity and 2 adults gone. In the chaos, he heard a mother scream, "My child!" upon seeing little Serenity had been struck by a discharge. Having just lost his own child weeks before, Terence sprang into action. He scooped up the wounded 6-year-old and rushed her to a car, urging the driver to race to the hospital. He cradled Serenity in his arms the entire way. Thankfully, the child survived her injuries, in part due to his quick thinking and courage. Terence Sr. walked home from the hospital that night with his clothes covered in red bodily fluid, shaken by the realization that yet another child had nearly been lost to violence. This incident only reinforced his mission.
Police now asking for our help in identifying this person and then also getting any information about at least the second person that they are looking for. Take a look at your screen. This is from security cam footage. Police giving us 2 pictures of one person of interest. In the photos, it does look like he's possibly carrying a gun. As for the second person, police have not given us a description yet and are asking people to come forward with any information. Now, that happened at Rosa L. Birney Park. 2 people and injuring 4, including a 6-year-old. Here's what the interim police chief says led up to it all.
It appears there was a fight, 2 people that were upset with each other. That moment of anger led to violence because someone had, in fact, not just one person had, 2 people had.
2 days later, on August 9th, he helped organize and attended a peace rally at the park, calling for an end to the incidents. By early September that year, Terence Denson was on the cusp of formally launching his nonprofit and expanding his outreach. He had been attending training sessions on how to lead community healing circles for those traumatized by violence. He also regularly visited a local sports bar in Mechanicsville, a gathering spot where he and other residents would talk about needed changes in the neighborhood. On the night of September 8th, 2022, Vio struck the Denson family a second time. That Thursday, Terence Sr. stopped by one of his usual haunts, the 656 Sports Bar and Grill, a local spot at the corner of Pryor Street Southwest and Ralph David Abernathy Boulevard in Southwest Atlanta. Sometime around 9:40 p.m., an argument broke out inside or near the bar and quickly spiraled out of control. Atlanta police later said the incident stemmed from a dispute among patrons, though the exact cause of the fight remains under investigation. Discharges rang out, causing panicked patrons to duck for cover. When the chaos subsided, multiple people had been struck by discharges. Terence Sr. was found lying outside the bar, not far from the home of a family member. He had been wounded several times. Another 36-year-old man was also found at the scene with discharge wounds. That victim was still conscious and was rushed to a hospital for treatment. Terence, however, had no chance to be saved. He passed from his injuries at the scene before help could even arrive. The Fulton County Medical Examiner later officially identified him and recorded his cause of passing as multiple discharge wounds.
New information about a young father fighting against violent crime in his community as he falls victim to a violent crime himself. Tonight, family and friends of Terence Denson tell John Sherrick they're following his example in fighting back his way.
He had known tragedy, held it in his arms, staggering from personal tragedy that shattered his heart.
I saw hurt.
Close family and friends of 36-year-old Terence Denson hurting now too. 1 week after he was shot outside a neighborhood bar in Mechanicsville, just south of downtown Atlanta, the neighborhood where he was working to reduce crime and guide young people away from guns and gangs, especially after what happened this past June to his own son, family friend Takesia Shields.
Instead of going back and saying that I'm going to hurt somebody, he was going to the community saying, I want to save someone and I'm going to save them in what way I can.
Terence Denson started an organization to try to save young people from violence, from the life of crime he led when he was young. Irisha Ridley, his cousin, says his mission consumed him.
He didn't want to repeat the cycle. He wanted to break the cycle. He wanted to build the community up. He didn't want them to experience the things that he experienced.
Last month, when someone opened fire at a softball game in Mechanicsville, killing one person and wounding 5 more, it was Terence who ran in and helped save the life of one of the wounded, a 6-year-old girl. We were there a few days later when community leaders gathered nearby, Terence among them, which is why they are determined to pick up Terence's mission and make it their own. Pastor Radonis Bryan.
That's what he was doing with book bag giveaways, giving away food. As I said, he was just trying to help the community.
Fearlessly.
To have survived the passing of his son, only to lose his life less than 3 months later, was almost too cruel to believe. Terence Sr.'s family and friends struggled with grief upon hearing the news that their beloved neighborhood hero was gone. It was later reported that 2 people lost their lives in the bar incident that night, Terence Sr. and one other man, indicating that the second injured victim did not survive either. Atlanta police detectives began investigating the incident immediately. According to one family friend, Takesia Shields, investigators told the family that Terence wasn't at fault in the altercation. By this account, he was an innocent bystander in the wrong place at the wrong time, caught in the crossfire of someone else's dispute. It appears that his only role was that of a community member unwittingly swept into Vio, a bitterly ironic twist given that he dedicated himself to preventing such. Officially, police did confirm that an interpersonal dispute led to the incident, but they did not elaborate on Terence Sr.'s involvement or the identities of any suspects. Investigators processed the crime scene and gathered surveillance footage from the bar and surrounding area, hoping to identify the assailants responsible. They gathered on basketball courts at Rawson Washington Park, the same area where he had fought so passionately for peace, to pay their respects. Many wore shirts bearing his image or the slogan "Stop the Vio," echoing his rallying cry. The crowd released blue and white balloons into the evening sky, symbolizing prayers for healing and a commitment to continue the work Terence had started. There was a profound sense that the community had lost not just a friend, but a guardian and mentor.
Now, a man who his family says was close to starting up a nonprofit to help get local teens in the Mechanicsville area on a path away from guns and gangs. Now, Denson was seeing firsthand the consequences of kids getting their hands on a gun. His own son, Terence, a 15-year-old student at Atlanta's Midtown High School, was gunned down back in June. A senseless crime police believe was over a girl. 3 months later, Denson's life was ended when someone opened fire outside the 656 Sports Bar and Grill off Pryor Street. Denson was on that night on September 8th. No one has been arrested in the homicide. A tragedy Denson's family hopes will bring this community together and create a change like Denson was working on with the startup of his nonprofit. Now, back out here live outside this park, I can tell you his family is starting to show up. I just talked to his mom off camera, still visibly upset. If you look down the street here, you'll actually see some of the family now arriving. These are friends. The balloons are now coming here up the street. They're asking people to bring blue and white balloons out. Again, this community coming together to remember this man and to carry on what he was trying to do.
Stop the violence and increase the peace.
Irisha Ridley is making sure her cousin's mission continues.
It's called Better Living Youth Corporation,
a nonprofit Terence Denson was working on to help change his community.
This is where we grew up at. This is the roots of where we come from.
9 days later, 1 mile from the street Denson took his last breath, his community came together to honor his life.
T-Rock, Mr. Denson lost his life to senseless gun violence. And so I'm here today to spread the word of love, unity, and peace, that we got to come together and we got to learn to be lovers and not haters.
Pastor Raydonis Bryan echoed the message Denson's Aunt Pauline Lyon wanted the community to hear and understand.
Stopping it all, it don't make sense. One killing leading to another, it's not God's way. You know, we need peace.
Denson's cousin, who is taking over his nonprofit, says the only way to see the peace is to get more people involved, to get their message to the future of their community.
If we can get more heavy hitters, and what I mean by heavy hitters, I mean like people who can pull a crowd together to get out here and speak to the youth, because the youth is our future, we'll see a lot of the numbers go down with the gun violence.
Stop the violence, increase the peace, put love in your heart, stop taking from others.
Local leaders and activists pointed to the Denson's tragedy as a call to action. At Midtown High School, students and teachers remembered Terence Jr. as a promising young man whose life was stolen far too soon. Community organizations in Mechanicsville vowed to carry on Terence Sr.'s legacy. In fact, his family moved forward with establishing the Better Youth Living Corporation in his memory, the nonprofit he had envisioned to combat firearm violence and support at-risk youth. His cousin Irisha Ridley assumed a leading role in that effort. As of the latest known information, the investigation into Terence Denson's fatality is still open. Atlanta police have continued to urge anyone with information to come forward. Each passing day without an arrest is painful for the family, but they remain hopeful that justice will eventually be served. Meanwhile, in Terence Denson Jr.'s case, 19-year-old Ahmad Ryle awaits legal proceedings in Clayton County. The wheels of justice turn slowly, but the community has not forgotten what happened to this father and son. May the family and friends of Terence Denson Sr. and Terence Denson Jr. Find solace in the happy memories, and may their souls rest in perpetual peace. Thank you.